Hello guys and welcome back to my channel. My name is Tommy. I'm a human nutrition student and researcher at the university. What I do in this type of videos is to synthesize what I learned during the classes at the university and then explain everything for you here for free in this type of videos. What I do today is to start the new series of videos about the dietetics. So let's view how dietetics work. This is the introduction video. Let's begin. Dietetics. So when we start talking about dietetics, we need to look at death causes. Why is that? Because 1/3 of death causes have to do with dietetic factors, and this is huge. What are the health parameters? Genetic, biology, lifestyle, and environment. Which of these can we modify? Genetic, biology, not really. Lifestyle, a lot of it. Environment, only partially. So what we need to do is to focus on the lifestyle, because changing our lifestyle and our way of eating can indeed decrease these death causes because of dietetic factors. Taking a look at Spain's situation. Spain nutrition is low in grains, low in fruit and veggies, and low in legumes, and high in processed meat, sugars, and salt. Therefore, there is a deficit in zinc in the majority of people, folate, vitamin D, and then there is the 39% of the population which is overweight and the 22% is obese. There is also childhood obesity, poor knowledge about nutrition, which indeed is the most terrifying factor and the main reason of death causes. Starting to view in detail the dietetics, we need to understand some concepts first. So dietetics is the science that studies how to provide each person or group with the food necessary for optimal nutritional status and development. So the correct food to the correct people. Feeding is the voluntary action of eating and choosing the food to put in the mouth, whereas nutrition is the involuntary process by which our body can digest, absorb, and take advantage of those nutrients we have chosen. Gastronomy is the art of cooking food for nutrition and palatability, and the diet is the etymology of hygiene of life, the dietary method or regime. Indeed, can also be considered a lifestyle. Then we have food and nutrients. Food is the basic human need that contains the nutrients, also contains non-nutritious substances, and is included in the diet to live a good life. The nutrient is the minimal functional unit used by the cells in the metabolism and derived from the food. It must have an energetic or plastic or regulatory function to be considered a nutrient. If it lacks one of these, it's not a nutrient. Nutrition laws advocate quantity to prevent deficiencies, the quality of the food, harmony between the macros, 55% of carbs, 30% of fats, and 15% of proteins, and then adequacy, the correct food and diet for the correct person. It's not the same a diet for a child and a diet for a sport athlete. History. Throughout the history, there have been many differences regarding food and dietetics. Homer, Plato, and Hippocrates started saying that diet is indispensable for good life. And much later, in the 19th century, dietetics evolves and integrates knowledge from the other sciences. The goal is to plan a personalized diet tailored to the needs and characteristics of the recipient. Then we take a look at dietary guidelines. So here we have two main differences, the quantitative and the qualitative. Starting with the quantitative, we have the dietary reference intakes. These are for the population groups by age and sex, and then the nutritional goals for everyone in the population level. So inside the dietary reference intakes, we have the nutritional requirements. These are the quantities of nutrients needed by an individual. This is basically everything you need, just you as being you, to maintain health, whereas the recommended intakes are the quantities optimal for the majority of healthy people. The recommended intakes are the average requirement plus 2 times the standard deviation. This is to cover people that also need a little bit more than the average. And these requirements are established by organization. In the Food and Nutrition Board, we have the EAR, which is the estimated average requirement, the RDA, recommended daily allowance, the AI, the adequate intakes, and the UL, the tolerable upper intake level. The same is with the AFCA, but they have different names. Nutritional goals, as I said, are guidelines to the world population. And here in Spain, they are set by the SENC and the ASAN. The ASAN also has this project called the NAOS, which stands for Nutritional, Physical Activity and Obesity Prevention. Basically what they do here is to address these four main groups of nutrients to lower and correct the overall population dietary aspects. So for example, salt, the 80% of the population in Spain consume higher amounts of 5 grams, which are the recommended, and the ASAN is planning to reduce that to at least 6 grams per day in the majority of people. Then the fat is higher on total unsaturated fats, but is good with the unsaturated ones here in Spain. The sugars are recommended to be lower than 10%, and the ASAN, what it does is to lower the amount consumed nowadays to prevent the overconsumption of calories. And then fiber, the FCA recommends 24 grams per day, and what the ASAN does is to recommend 20 to 25 grams per day in women and 25 to 30 grams per day in men. On the other hand, we have the qualitative. These are indeed the dietary guidelines. And this, what they do is to translate the quantitative nutrient recommendations, these, into foods. And they have a history, the dietary guidelines. Because in Greece, they started saying that may food be your medicine. Then, much later in the 19th century, they started viewing the microbial theory of disease, that microorganisms can cause diseases. In the 20th century, there is the Funk's vitamin theory, in which he said that the lack of vitamins will cause diseases, and the vitamins are essential nutrients that must be included in our diet. In the 50s, 60s, there was a Framingham study of the 7 countries, in which we saw the major correlation between disease and nutrients. And then, in the 70s, 80s, there is the development of the first guide in the USA. Nowadays, we added also the physical activity, but there are still no guidelines for children, pregnant women, adolescents and older adults. Okay, but why do we need dietary guidelines? Because they are optimal implementation of the nutrient requirements for humans. How do we create dietary guidelines? Well, we have to find the health diet problem. We have to find the responsible nutrient involved, and this is what we have done through the history, these two. Then we have to translate the mismatches into food. We have to stage guides, drawings and graphs, such as pyramids or plates that are very visual, and then validate and also evaluate the impact they have on the population. In detail, the Spanish dietary guideline is a pyramid, and at the base there is the physical activity of 60 minutes or 10,000 steps per day, the emotional balance, the energetic balance, the healthy cooking techniques, and the recommended amount of 2.5 liters of water. In the second level, which is mainly the daily consumption and moderate consumption, there are the grains, the fruits and veggies, the olive oil, then the dairy, legumes, nuts, white meat, fish and eggs. And in the third level, which is occasional and optional, the red and processed meat, salt lower than 6 grams, sugars, which include industrial pastries, sweets, ice cream, etc., and alcohol, 1 dose for women and 2 doses for men. What are the changes throughout the history in the Spanish dietary guidelines? We added the healthy habits at the bottom. Also, the occasional becomes the optional here. These are indeed optional. If you don't want to have them, you can skip. And the alcohol is removed from the daily consumption, because before it was in the second level, and it is moved in the third one. And then also there was the addition of the nutritional supplementation, which indeed should be or would be a fourth level. And now let's take a look at food composition tables. The background of food composition tables is that the first one was created in 1878. Then in 1892, Atwater created some tables as well. Atwater is the guy that created the conversion between the protein, carbs and fats into calories per gram, the 4 calories for proteins and carbs and the 9 calories per gram of fats. Then in 1939, the composition of foods tables. In 1950, USDA published the composition of foods, raw, processed and prepared. In 1964, the FAO created the international tables. In 1976, USDA published the composition of foods, and these are the most updated ones and the ones we use today. And in 1968, the Spanish tables from the FAO data are created in the Tratado de Bromatología. Then in 1986, SOSI tables in Germany. In 1987, Tablas de Composición de Alimentos del Instituto de Nutrición del CSIC. This is the Institution of Nutrition of the CSIC, and it published basically the food composition tables. And this institution is indeed the one involved in the scientific research and studies here in Spain. In 1987, the Moreira Varela tables, and in 1992, Mataix tables. These in color are basically for Spain mainly. The other ones are international. Applications of the food composition tables for energetic and nutritional intakes valoration. So we valorate the individual and also maybe a population group. Diets development for low-calorie diet, restricted diet, supplemented, specific diets. Menu planning for the catering, and also planning countries' food policy, aka the food guidelines that we just saw. Development. How do we create these tables? Through experimental analytical results obtained by calculation. Different laboratories give us different references, and there are some variability factors, such as the factors that can affect the food composition, which are plant variety, animal species, the nutrition they have, the environment there is out there, and many more. All the countries' data can also be implied in the variability, so maybe we have some data here in Spain, but it's not equal to the one they have in UK, for example. All the times data, past analysis can be different. Analysis methods are not comparable because maybe they are way different. One is calculating the protein, whereas the other is calculating the nitrogen, let's say, an example. Some cases of equivalencies from similar food. For example, if you have a red apple and a green apple, then you are going to say that they have almost the same amount of nutrients, and there is no food source indicated, because in these type of studies they don't really say, oh, I got these apples from the market down the street or from the tree behind my house. They don't say it. And then the structure it must have. So a food composition table must have the name of the food, the units, the mean value, the standard deviation, as well as the number of samples and the range of variation. So, for example, eggs have around 13 grams of protein per 100 grams of eggs, but the ranges maybe are from 12 to 14, so minimum and maximum. Nutritional facts table must look like this. The edible portion from 0 to 1. An example would be a pineapple. You don't eat the whole pineapple, or at least you shouldn't, but the edible portion should be around 0.55, 0.60. The energy it provides, water content, protein content, total lipid content, the fat, carbohydrate content with sugar, starch and fiber, the content of minerals, vitamins expressed in milligrams or micrograms, the content of cholesterol, amino acids, fatty acids, sugars, carotenoids, and also the type of cooking treatment, which is very important. Is it raw? Is it boiled? Is it roasted? The difference is huge. And the serving, is it referred to 100 grams? To a serving of yogurt, for example, is 125 milliliters. So it varies a lot. And these are all the things that a nutritional fact table, a food composition table, must include. Okay guys, this is it for this video. I hope you understood everything I said. If you didn't, there is a comment section down below. Remember to like, subscribe and share this video to your friends and family. You can download this diagram by clicking in the first link in the description down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I see you in the next one. Bye!